There's a letter that went out last night to Attorney General Merrick Garland from Congressman Jim Jordan, Congressman Mike Johnson. Congressman Johnson's joining us now. He's a ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, Subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights, and Civil Liberties. Congressman Johnson, I want to go right to you with this letter because you've got whistleblower reports now that contradict Merrick Garland's testimony to your committee about parents being investigated by the FBI for voicing their concerns at school board meetings.
That's right, my friend. This is a big deal. You know, we have been investigating this for some time. Our Republicans on the Judiciary Committee, you know, we have jurisdiction over the Department of Justice and all of its agencies and divisions. We've been investigating the Biden administration's misuse of law enforcement resources. Part of that has been to target concerned parents. They've been doing this since last fall. Remember, all the angry mama bears and all the dads were going to the school board meetings. They were protesting. They were letting their voices be heard. They were exercising the First Amendment, Jordan, and they were letting these school boards on the local level know that they're not on board with the CRT nonsense. They didn't like the mask mandates and all that. It's a quintessential part of our process. But here's the problem. The Department of Justice and the FBI targeted those parents and considered them a threat. Now, here's the deal. When Merrick Garland came in front of our committee in October, we asked him under oath, right in front of the Judiciary Committee, whether that was true or not. He said that those parents had never been targeted. Now we have a whistleblower that confirms our worst fears.
Mike, this is Jay Sekulow. And you write in the letter, in sworn testimony before this committee, you denied that this was to Merrick Garland, you denied that the Department of Justice or its components were using counterterrorism statutes and resources to target parents at school board meetings. We now have evidence that, contrary to your testimony, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has labeled at least a dozen of its investigations into parents with a threat tag created by the FBI's Counterterrorism Division to assess and track investigations related to school boards. We just were talking about, Mike, that you put all this together. All the actions of the Biden administration for the last several months, the governance board for misinformation and disinformation, the president really targeting anybody that disagrees with him is ultra MAGA. And then you have parents being targeted by the Department of Justice. What do you want to see happen here?
Well, ultimately, we need accountability. We've got to make sure that the Department of Justice is not weaponized to become a political arm of the Democrat Party. And that's exactly what they've done, Jay. All these surreal, dystopian developments that you just described and many others lead only to one logical conclusion, that the DOJ is no longer this neutral arbiter, you know, the agency that's in charge with maintaining our justice system and making sure that the law, you know, the law is equal. Everyone's equal before law and justice is blind, all that. They've thrown it all out the window. They're using this to advance political objectives and go after their political opponents. And sadly and very unfortunately, not a dozen, but dozens now, we know because of this whistleblower, dozens of parents who have just shown up at their local school board meetings to show their care and concern for what their children are being exposed to, they've been labeled as domestic terrorists. This absolutely happened. The threat tag, by the way, is EDU officials. That's the FBI's tag that they put on these files. And they're treating these people like they're enemies of the state. It's unconscionable. And Jay, at the end of the day, the greatest threat here, you and I both know, is that it's undermining the people's faith in our institutions. And if we lose our faith in our system of justice, brother, in a constitutional republic, we're in real trouble.
Well, it reminds me, just 1 second here, it reminds me exactly of what we had to do with the IRS when they targeted groups, the same thing, based on their names, Liberty, 9/11, Freedom. That became a be on the lookout list, and then we had I'll never forget in the discovery, getting those emails from Lois Lerner, where she said, well, let's get in touch with the FBI and the FEC and bring a criminal case because that will shut this down. So we know where this can go, and we took action, and then, of course, we won, but you had to take legal action to do it.
Well, that's right, and that may be a component of this. In the meantime, Jim Jordan and I, in our letter to the Merrick Garland last night, we told him, listen, number one, you have to now produce all the documents and materials that we have been sending these requests for over almost 18 months now on this issue, and things related to it. They haven't been forthcoming. They haven't shown us what they are required under the law to produce for Congress. So we demanded that. We also said, take reasonable steps right now and immediately to preserve all those records, responsive to our letters, because you know what they'll do, Jay, they'll get rid of the evidence. So this is serious stuff. It goes to the highest level. This is the top law enforcement official in the country. And remember, what's so ironic about this is Merrick Garland, they told us, remember, he was going to be on the Supreme Court, as you well know, Jay, and they told us he was the lion of the left. This guy is supposed to be the smartest, the man of the highest integrity on the left. And it turns out he just raised his hand and lied to Congress. I mean, this is really, really serious stuff, and we are not going to let it go.
What I'm concerned about, Congressman, too, is the idea that in most of these examples, it's someone who is using political speech, saying, you know what, we're going to get rid of you guys. The school board officials, they're elected. The school board members are elected officials. And the idea that in America, you can't say to someone, you know what, we're going to beat you politically. We're going to run candidates against you. That suddenly that makes you a threat. It makes you're inciting violence if you express displeasure with their policies. I mean, this idea, again, what I'm concerned about is that there's no longer this idea in our country. It's not shared by both political parties anymore that we protect free speech. In fact, now saying that you're a free speech absolutist is a bad thing in America. But we've heard use by this disinformation board that's awful but lawful. Of course, they're defining what awful is. I mean, I think here there's the disillusion with the institutions of government, but then there's the second idea, which is they really just want all these parents and everybody who may have been politically motivated to get involved to sit back and say, you know what, I'm going to make the calculation. I'd rather not have the FBI knocking on my door, so I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to voice my concern. I'm not going to get involved.
That's exactly right, Jordan. And the three of us have been serving in this arena, defending our fundamental freedoms and free speech and religious liberty our whole careers because we saw that a day like this may come one day. And we're here now, right? You have the government, the highest levels of power in the country, labeling citizens who have disfavored opinions. We had a press conference yesterday. We're going to defund that disinformation board, give it our best shot. Jim Jordan and I and Lauren Boebert and others.
Right.
And we stood there, and I stood in front of this whole cadre of Hill reporters, Washington Capitol Hill reporters, and I said to them, guys, everybody, wake up out of your stupor and remember, this is not who we are in America. In America, we do not trust the government to be the arbiter of what is true and acceptable speech. That's called tyranny, guys. You're the free press, right? The First Amendment guarantees the right to free speech and a free press. Guess what? That's in jeopardy right now because the government may disfavor what you say tomorrow, right? We're all in jeopardy. We have to stop this. We have to keep government in check, and we have to defend freedom, and it's never been more important to do that than it is right now.
Congressman Mike Johnson, a good friend of ours for a long time, fellow worker and for religious freedom, for First Amendment freedoms, and it's always great working with you, Mike, and I'm thrilled that you're heading this up with our friend Jim Jordan. This is really important. Thanks, Mike.